This hour of the Costa Report is brought to you by Dole Food Company, the world's leading producer and distributor of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Welcome to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and thank you for joining me for another 2 hours of Straight Talk Radio. I want to welcome members of our armed forces who are joining us from remote locations over the Internet, and listeners tuning in on new radio affiliates in Hawaii, California, New Hampshire, Florida, Tennessee, and Minnesota. Thank you for being with us today. In just a moment, one of our country's most respected journalists and news anchors, Mr. Jim Lehrer, will be joining the program to give us some insights on what goes on behind the scenes of a presidential debate and why the journalists who ask the questions seem to be as much a part of the story as the candidates themselves. But before Mr. Lehrer joins us, as is my custom each week, let me tell you a little about his background. James Charles Lehrer was born in Wichita, Kansas, and grew up in Beaumont and San Antonio, Texas. He is a graduate of Victoria College and the University of Missouri. His career began when he became a reporter for the Dallas Morning News in 1959. He later joined the Dallas Times-Herald, where he covered the assassination of John F. Kennedy and rose to become the city editor. From here, Lehrer tackled television. He became the host of The Newsroom on Cara TV in Dallas, and later moved to Washington to join PBS as the Public Affairs Coordinator. But what you may best know Mr. Lehrer for was his unique partnership with Robert MacNeil during the Watergate hearings and the MacNeil-Lehrer Report, which resulted from their unique collaboration. In 1995, with MacNeil's departure, the program was renamed The NewsHour with Jim Lehrer, and later the PBS NewsHour. Lehrer stepped down as anchor of the program in 2011, but only after earning several Emmys, the George Foster Peabody Broadcast Award, and just about every acknowledgement given for journalism excellence. In short, Lehrer set the standard. And if our research is correct, while he was anchoring his landmark news program, Mr. Lehrer found time to moderate 12 presidential debates and author several best-selling books. It's my pleasure to welcome to the Costa Report the man who has been called the Dean of Moderators, Mr. Jim Lehrer. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Lehrer.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. I'm honored by your introduction, and I'm honored to be present with you. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad you could make time to be with us. As you know, we just had the first of the GOP candidate debates. And just out of curiosity, what did you think about the format and the questions?
Well, it's a very complicated issue. The debates for the primaries, in other words, the nomination debates, are very different than the general election debates. So the rules have to be different, and also you have, in the Republican case, you have 17 candidates, so they couldn't all fit, or at least the decision was made, they couldn't all fit on one stage at one time, so they had to divide them up, and I think there probably could have been a way they could have done it, but I don't have a better way of doing it than the way they ended up doing it. I thought that from the standpoint of just as a viewer, it was very interesting. I thought that the people who asked the questions, in other words, the journalists, asked real questions for the most part, and they were some of them extremely difficult, but they were professionally offered, I thought. So generally speaking, it was an interesting 90 minutes or 2 hours, whatever it was, depending on when you were counting.
Now, I've been watching election debates going back to Kennedy and Nixon. My parents used to sit us in front of the radio and the television. And for reasons I can't explain, this debate struck me as being very casual for such an important decision that the country's going to make. I mean, there was part of me that wants the structure and the moderators to treat the debates and also the candidates more seriously, more respectfully. After all, we're talking about the highest office in the world. Am I being a stick in the mud?
No, you're not. I couldn't agree with you more. I particularly feel strongly about that in terms of the general election debates in particular, and I think the Commission on Presidential Debates runs those debates in a very old-fashioned stick in the mud way, to use your term, and I agree with that. This is serious business. There are no stakes in the world of American politics, or maybe possibly world politics, that are higher than those at these presidential debates. So I agree with you. They are serious events, and they should be considered that, and they should be performed that way. They should be presented that way, and everybody who participates should keep that in mind, and everybody who watches should keep that in mind. I agree with you.
Yeah, there was just something about this tone that struck me more as a carnival type of atmosphere, like a game show or something, and it just struck me as the wrong tone. But let's talk about what happened immediately after the first debate. All of the media's attention seemed to focus on Donald Trump's claim that he was targeted by Megyn Kelly. So as a person who was moderated 12 debates, were you surprised by all that hubbub?
I really wasn't. This has happened before, 4 years ago, also in some Republican debates. Newt Gingrich attacked the moderator, in that case John King of CNN. It's good mileage, and people know that. And a candidate who is particularly a candidate who it is always fertile territory to attack the moderator if you've got some juice. If you've got some, if you have an attack that's based on something, and people want to go, if partisans are always going to side against the moderator if the moderator asks a question that in some way is interpreted as not necessarily negative, but is interpreted as being difficult for his or her candidate to answer, and so it's a good thing for them to do. So when Trump did what he did, I was surprised the way he did it, and I thought he went very strong with it. But to attack the moderator is there's precedent for that.
I don't know. It seems kind of like a gimmick or something to go after the moderator if all else fails. I mean, anytime there's a debate, the moderator comes under scrutiny. And this even happened to you in 2012, where half the audience was delighted that you let the candidates address each other in the debate, and the other half criticized you and said you didn't take control of the debate. Can you talk a little bit about your decision to let the candidates talk to one another?
Well, I'm glad you asked about that. Because yes, you're exactly right. I was criticized for letting it go, at the same time praised for letting it go. The bottom line for me was I signed on to let it go. That is what the Commission on Presidential Debates wanted. They wanted to move to a more open format, and they asked me as the moderator to do that, and the candidates were so informed. There was no, and the public was so informed. I mean, in other words, I said that at the very beginning, and then I tried everything I could to get it opened up. And once it did get opened up, I left it alone. And my feeling was that I did what I set out to do. Now, some people criticized me because they felt that it needed to be more 1 minute here, 2 minute, 1 minute, 2 minute. Well, that's the way they've always been. But in this case, the debate commission, I didn't make that decision. The debate commission made the decision to open it up, and they just wanted me to facilitate that, and that's what I tried to do.
Well, that's one of the things I've admired about you as a moderator is you never tried to make yourself part of the story. I'm wondering in this last GOP debate, did you feel that they were trying to, make themselves part of the story? Unfortunately, we're going to have to take a hard break, but I'd like to explore that a little bit because,
Sure.
It's such an opportunity for a moderator. I wonder, well, first of all, I would never do it because no matter what you do, somebody's going to be unhappy with you. But it's such an opportunity, and so I wonder if some moderators do wind up positioning themselves in such a way that they make themselves part of the story. And I think that's just absolutely opposed to what I think a moderator ought to be doing. But let's take that up on the other side of the break. Stay right where you are. When we come back, we're going to find out why some questions never seem to come up in the debates. You're listening to the Costa Report. If you're wondering what to do with all that data you're creating, do I have an offer for you? Tableau is drag-and-drop software that people of any skill level can use to analyze and turn data into something actionable. That's right, I said actionable. And isn't that what all that data is for? With Tableau, you can connect to any data in virtually any format and visualize it on the fly. Databases, spreadsheets, even big data sources are instantly combined into usable charts, graphs, reports, and dashboards. People can analyze data and drag and drop at 10 times the speed of a traditional business intelligence system. But the most impressive thing about Tableau is that anyone can use it. And just to prove the point, you can get a free 14-day trial from Tableau just by mentioning you heard this ad. But do it now, because this offer won't last. For your free 14-day trial, visit Tableau at tableau.com/Costa. That's tableau.com/Costa. Tableau software. What's your data trying to tell you? I'm here today with Scott Caraccioli of Caraccioli Cellars, recent winners of the best sparkling wine in the U.S. in the Champagne and Sparkling Wine World Championship. Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
So what is it about your Brut Cuvée that beat all the other competitors around the world?
We really focus on creating an expression of the Santa Lucia Highlands and doing it the right way. And when you control the process from the beginning to the end and you have talent like Michelle and top-tier grapes, they really shine through.
This was a worldwide competition.
It was definitely a humbling experience. We were in a room with producers that have been making wine for over 100, 200 years, and was a huge honor to have Tom Stevenson give us the best U.S. Sparkling Wine Award. We fared really well overall. We had 3 wines win Best of Class, which was great.
Visit the Caraccioli Tasting Room on Dolores Street in Carmel by the Sea, or find us online at caraccioliCellars.com, or reach us by phone 831-622-7722.
When you need legal help, call on the Angel. It's a fact. We'll all need help to resolve a legal matter of one kind or another. When you find yourself in need of legal help, call on Angel Hess Attorney at Law. She's been helping people with legal documents for over 20 years. Now Angel has earned her master's in legal studies and Juris Doctorate and is licensed to practice law for you.
I'm Angel L. Hess, Attorney at Law. With my help, we can resolve your legal matters quickly and efficiently. I will listen to your needs and keep you informed of the pros and cons of each legal strategy. We will find the best course of action for you. And if I can't help you, then I will help you find someone who can.
And today, Angel Hess has an angelic offer for each of you KSCO listeners, and only you KSCO listeners. A free half-hour consultation. That's right. Just pick up the phone and call her with your legal matter, mention KSCO, and get your free consultation today. When you find yourself in need of legal help, call on Angel L. Hess, Attorney at Law in Santa Cruz at 831-426-8536 or www.santacruzlegal.net.
Hi, I'm Andy, the produce manager at Benelman Market. This holiday, we are featuring California garnet yams, 99 cents a pound, navel oranges, 79 cents a pound, broccoli crowns, $1.99 a pound, red seedless grapes, $2.69 a pound, 3-pound bag seedless clementines, $3.99 each, California hothouse cluster tomatoes, $1.69 a pound, and 1-pound clamshell strawberries, $3.99 each. From Washington, we have large Granny Smith apples, large and small Fuji apples, 99 cents a pound. From Mexico, we have tender green beans, $1.99 a pound. And from Peru, we have asparagus, $3.99 a pound. In organics, we are featuring garnet yams, $1.49 a pound, and organic 5-pound bag russet potatoes, $2.99 each. Check out our great selection of fresh produce at Ben Lomond Market.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is legendary news anchor and best-selling author Jim Lehrer. And before the break, you were making the point that the structure of the debate you moderated in 2012 was to allow the candidates to address each other, and so that had been decided far in advance, and as a result, when they began speaking to one another, you didn't intervene. Yet there were a lot of viewers who weren't aware of that, and they were critical that you didn't stop the candidates. And it was a shame that that point wasn't made, I think, in advance.
Well, I agree with you, Rebecca. In fact, I regret very much that not very much, but I regretted very much at the time afterward that more people didn't understand what the drill was, and I was merely executing what had been agreed to. And it's too bad, but I think everybody.
I was delighted. I was absolutely delighted to see them address each other, and I wish there was even more of that. But people I think did misunderstand. Now, continuing with that line of thought, not long ago I had a chance to visit with Candy Crowley, who, as you know, did the opposite of what you did in 2012 and corrected one of the candidates. And again, all the attention seemed to go to the moderator after the debate, which makes me wonder, why would anybody accept that job?
Well, something. I don't want to, blow a bugle or do hit any drum or anything as I say this, but I think if somebody is asked to moderate a presidential debate, if the debate commission somehow deems you capable and qualified to do it, I don't see how you can say no. I think it's just a responsibility. It's part of your duty as a citizen to offer your skills, but not necessarily and think of it as a showbiz go, or as an opportunity to audition for a better job or to become a star or any of that sort of stuff. It is a function. These debates, these presidential debates, are a part of the process that leads to electing the president of the United States. And if somebody is a moderator, he or she is also a functioning person in that process. And I don't think any moderator should see him or herself as an individual who has come to moderate. This is the Lehrer debate or the Billy Bob Dunn debate or the Wah debate. This is the presidential debate for the American people. And as long as people who do the moderating understand that, they won't have a problem, no matter what they do, whether it's right or wrong or perceived to be right or wrong.
Right. Well, you view this clearly as a service to your country.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, it's, as I say, it sounds corny, but I really do feel that way.
So let's talk a little bit about the process you go through in formulating the questions. How does that come about, and how much freedom do you have to shape the questions and topics?
Well, you have absolute freedom. There has never been an attempt in the 12 that I did. Nobody ever attempted to influence what questions I would ask. Nobody from the commission, nobody from outside the commission, nobody from anybody's campaign. Yes, I got a lot of suggestions. I got millions of suggestions for questions from individuals and from and various special interest groups and things like that. But in terms of somebody who could actually cause me to ask a certain question or not ask a certain question, I never ever had anybody do that, and it would have been a fruitless exercise if they had tried. But in terms of preparing, and Rebecca, you know this as well as I do, preparing for questions is really about preparing to listen. It is more than it is than preparing to write questions. Anybody can write questions. Anybody can come up with questions. It may take a while, but you can come up with questions. But you've got to do your homework so you can listen to the answers. Because if you've got to be comfortable enough to be able to respond, the story I always tell is that it's never happened to me, but things like this have happened to me, where somebody says to me, "Well, I asked a question, Senator, do you think we should sell more grain to Cuba?" And the senator says, well, yes, I think I do think I think we should, but before we do that, we should bomb Havana. And I say, well, what kind of grain, Senator? In other words, it goes right over your head. And a moderator or an interviewer who is so tied up in his or her questions, who doesn't hear the answers, is absolutely useless as far as I'm concerned, because a moderator should listen and have enough information. Hey, that's important. I should follow up on that, or that's nothing. Or he or she said that something just the opposite of that 2 weeks ago, or whatever. It is to be able to listen, and the only way you can do that effectively is to do your homework.
Well, I am so glad you brought that up, because the amount of preparation that we have to do for me to do a 1-hour interview with any of our guests is weeks and weeks of reading videos and so on and so forth, because you don't know where the person's going to go. And you need to be able to go there with them, which means you have to cover 100 times more material than is ever going to get out in front of the public. Otherwise, you can't go, you can't follow them.
Absolutely right. And you don't know how to judge whether or not this was important, what Billy Bob just said. And whether, oh, my goodness, this is really significant. Well, if you're so wrapped up in your next question, you will not hear something. And if you haven't done your homework, you won't hear it well enough to be able to react properly. That's what it's all about. Now,
along those lines, do you ever discuss the general topic areas with the candidates or their handlers in advance?
No. What we did do in 2012, because it was part of the new arrangement, the moderators were asked to come up with and to announce ahead of time general areas.
I see.
And I did that. I did it in mine. I think I had 3 on the economy, and I can't remember what the other 2 were, but they were not questions. They were just subject areas. The idea being to try to make these things more serious and less gotcha oriented, and but the bottom line on these things, Rebecca, no matter how well a candidate does in terms of subjects and of substance and all that, which is really what it should be all about.
Yes.
There's also the person, the personality, just the character of the candidate also comes through, particularly in a 1 hour, 90-minute, or a 2-hour debate. And do you like the person? Do you think the person is a quote good person? How can you tell that? Well, people do make those kinds of decisions based on just listening to them or watching them in a debate. It's very important stuff.
So do you divide your questions up into content questions and then maybe more that are leaning toward character?
Well, no, not unless character is an issue of some kind, and it has become an issue. Then I very seldom ask blatant over the transom character questions.
Well, I guess once John King got nailed for that was sort of the end of that, wasn't it?
Exactly. But the thing is, there are some times when character is an issue. And there's sometimes when it's not so much an issue. It may be perceived. Character's always there,
right?
And in other words, a character issue is this person done something honest or dishonest or whatever. Specific, yes. Go.
Right. It's always there in the background of every question. That's a good point. We have to take another short break.
You bet.
We'll be right back with more from Jim Lehrer. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Biodiversity is the very fabric of our lives. It is everything around us, all of nature. But human impact is diminishing biodiversity at an alarming rate. And because of that, the intricate web of biodiversity is unraveling in ways we don't fully understand, and our world is becoming less resilient. That's why we are biodiversity advocates. We're the E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation. Guided by the greatest living naturalist, E.O. Wilson, we champion research and education that expands our understanding of biodiversity and informs worldwide conservation efforts. The E.O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation is building a movement of environmental stewards like you who share our sense of responsibility for the living world that is our home. Join us in our quest to protect biodiversity, the fabric of our lives. Visit eowilsonfoundation.org.
Are things getting a little messy around the office? At Coast Paper and Supply, we'll meet all your janitorial needs. Mops, dusters, disinfectants? We got 'em. Can't get rid of that smell in the break room? Try our deodorizer. Carpet stains? We have a cure for that too. While you're at it, pick up the essentials. Garbage cans and liners, sponges and brooms. Is your company going green? Coast Paper and Supply is offering earth-friendly cleaning and food service alternatives. Our ever-evolving stock includes compostable bowls, plates, cups, and cutlery. Not to mention eco-friendly cleaners and biodegradable trash can liners, all at the lowest possible price. So come visit Coast Paper and Supply at 151 Josephine Street or look us up at coastpapersupplyinc.com. You can also call us at 831-423-3350. That's 831-423-3350.
When it comes to selecting a doctor, dentist, or an accountant, we all want to know who is going to take care of us, right? So before you select a gunsmith, I invite you to drop by Del Valle Gunsmithing and get to know us. Hello, I'm Ray Parga, owner of Del Valle Gunsmithing in Marina. I am very proud of the reputation we have earned in our 30 years of service to the Central Coast community of gun owners and soon-to-be gun owners. Drop by and get to know us. We are at 224 Rhinedollar in Marina. Here's what you will find happening right now at Del Valle Gunsmithing.
Mention you heard Ray on KSCO, and he will cover your California gun registration fees on in-store gun purchases.
We all want to know who is going to take care of us, right? When it comes to your handguns and rifles, choose the family-owned gunsmith with a 30-year reputation of excellent service. We are Del Valle Gunsmithing at 224 Rhinedollar in Marina. Drop by Del Valle Gunsmithing and get to know us. 831-384-1911. That's 384-1911 or DelValleGunsmithing.com. DelValleGunsmithing.com.
Michael Olson here. Watsonville Airport, something brand new and exciting. And I have the person that's responsible. And your name is?
Ella King.
Ella. Ella's at the airport.
Yeah, that's right. You got it right.
What are you going to do to please the palates of the Monterey Bay area with Ella's at the airport?
Well, we are working with mostly local, organic, sustainable seafoods, grass-fed meats. So you start with that, and from there we build a beautiful meal, be it lunch, dinner, or weekend brunch. I think that from there we've got you covered.
Ella's at the Airport also has a great outdoor seating area where you can watch the airplanes come and go, and we also feature a full bar. Ella's at the Airport, 100 Aviation Way in Watsonville. Call 831-728-3282 for reservations. That's 728-3282.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, my guest today is Jim Lehrer. And before the break, you were explaining that there are no restrictions on the questions asked by presidential debate moderators, though the general subject areas may be shared with the candidates. As a layman, I often wonder why certain questions are not asked. For example, one of the first things a new president must do is appoint a cabinet. So is there any reason we can't ask the candidates who they're considering for their vice presidential running mate, or who's on their short list for Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense or the Treasury? I mean, in the long run, we're electing a cabinet, not just one person. So I'm always curious why moderators don't go there.
That's a good question, Rebecca. That's a very good question. And I probably should have asked it a few times, and I didn't.
They never ask it. I mean, I'm not singling you out as a moderator. I'm just saying the moderators never say, hey, who's on your short list? Give us a preview.
There's a fine line, and trust me, it's a very fine line between questions that are more appropriate for debates versus those that are more appropriate for interviews. Mm-hmm. And if I were to interview a presidential candidate, and I've interviewed a lot of presidential candidates, and I have asked that question of them, which is not a debatable point necessarily, but it could be if somebody. I remember asking George H.W. Bush about his when he was running for re-election. I just did an interview with him in Houston during the convention, and I said, "Are you going to change your cabinet?" He said, "Yes." And it was huge news.
It is.
I mean, your point is well taken, but but in a debate, it's a little bit. It is actually, you could ask the question. Now that I think about it, certainly there would be a way you could ask the question that would be relevant. So you could ask both candidates. And have a kind of. But I've always felt that the debate subjects should be things that are more issue oriented, but I get your point. I mean, if somebody said, but for the most part they say no, I will not tell you right now who the candidates would be. I mean, who my cabinet officers would
I'd
be.
probably ask, well, why not? Why keep it a secret? You're going to have to tell us sooner or later.
Sure. But a candidate would just say, "Well, I'll make that decision. Well, I'm not going to make that decision until I'm elected, unless somebody says unless they want to make a political point. I'm Billy Bob, and if I'm elected president, I promise you, I'm going to make Sammy Sue my Secretary of State." And everybody, hey, or
right.
Ooh. And
it'd be fun to ask the other people that are in the debate. It'd be awful fun to say, well, is his short list a good list? Would you have some of those people on your list?
Sure. No.
I think you could get a really good dialogue going because, frankly, I understand the president is the highest office in the land, but let's face it, it's who they select as cabinet.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. No, you've made a very good point.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to call me up to ask questions, so I guess I can just sit back and fantasize all the questions I would ever ask, all I want to. Now,
I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to do any more debates. So I can agree with you.
There you go.
Question too.
There you go. So now I have another question for you. It's been suggested by many people that when the candidates run out their time, their microphones should be cut.
Well, I've thought about that, and I noticed that one of the things they did in the Fox debate, the Republican debate, they had a buzzer or something, or rang a bell, and there was a discussion about that. I think here again, it's not a question that a moderator is going to decide, but I think they've had discussions among members of the debate commission and staff people. Would that make sense to do some kind of sound, have some kind of sound, so the audience would understand?
Well, they've got countdown clocks in front of them, don't they? Don't they? Yeah, they've got countdown clocks that are telling them, and they know they're at zero, and they just keep talking. Exactly. And then, as a moderator, you're put in a position of just being downright rude.
I know. No, I thought about that, and probably in retrospect, that's a good idea. That's two great ideas you had.
Well, coming from Jim Lehrer, I'm having a good day today.
Where were you when I needed you?
Well, it's also been suggested, and this is really controversial, but it's been suggested, what if you just put the candidates and their vice presidential candidates all in a room at a table with no moderator and just watched and saw what happened?
Well, that's been suggested too. I don't know. I happen to believe that something like that could be very, very interesting and very much fun to watch. But it would give a huge advantage if one of those two candidates was more glib or more articulate, and yet might have the worst ideas, but or has a personality that is a little more, shall we say, over the top. I think it could be personality. It could personality drive that kind of debate into something that might not be as pleasant as it looks written down as a proposal.
So you feel that if there were no moderator and the candidates were just left in a room to have a 1-hour discussion, that format might lend itself to people seeing more superficial criteria by which to select.
Right. And it could become one of two things. It could become, oh my goodness, it's really great to get to know you, and and let's talk about this and all of that. Or it could be, in other words, they could talk for 90 minutes and not say a thing.
But we'd learn so much about their character, wouldn't we? Those that became aggressive and those that were accommodating. It'd be interesting without any questions in advance to force them to sit in a room. But, of course, I'm a scientist, though. I spent most of my career watching bonobo monkeys behind the lab glass. So I don't want structure. I just say, hey, throw them in there and let's see what happens, right?
Yeah. Well, I think what would be a good idea if they only have 3 debates. Let's say they had 4 or 5 debates, and do one of them that way. You wouldn't have to do all of them that way. Do one of them.
Yeah, what about this town hall format? Are you in favor of that?
Well, I think it's less town hallish than the label implies. That in the final analysis, the decisions about what questions are asked are still made by the moderator. And I got every town hall debate that I ever moderated. There were hundreds and hundreds of questions in the process that I was given to choose from.
Yes,
and I made the final decision. And they're not. It's not spontaneous in any form. I don't know. I think it's possible.
It's not really a town hall, as you point out. No, it's almost like a town hall show.
Exactly right.
But it's right. It's not spontaneous, and the questions are already decided. And also, there's this awkwardness in the ones where they have people sitting in the bleachers, where the candidate has to come out and then they have to retreat back into their corner, and it just makes me physically uncomfortable. It's awkward.
I agree with you again.
I think it's a format that works really well, but not on television.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Rebecca, that everybody has to understand about these debate formats. That a lot of it is driven, like it or not, by the wishes of the candidates.
Yes.
Through their handlers and whatever. If somebody is really good on his or her feet and really, smooth, what they call a flannel, somebody with a real flannel mouth, with an old Texas expression, so that person's handlers want a wide open debate. Mm-hmm. They want a quote town hall debate. Then the people who only talk in 1 or 2 minute lines, they don't. They want it structured.
Yeah, they want it buttoned down.
Sure.
Absolutely. Now, we have to take our final break. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Do you love creating salads as much as you enjoy eating them? Hi, I'm Amy Tobin, cookbook author and culinary expert. Dole inspires fresh and wholesome dishes for any meal with their wide selection of salad blends and all-natural salad kits. From the mild and tender texture of sweet butter lettuce to the crunch of classic romaine sprinkled with colorful shredded carrots and red cabbage, Dole has over 30 salad blends to satisfy every palate. If you're looking for the ultimate in convenience, try Dole's unique salad kit combinations that include farm-fresh lettuces and vegetables, mouth-watering all-natural toppings, and specially made dressings. It's all you need to make a distinctively delicious salad. The possibilities are endless. Visit www.dolesalads.com for recipes and other ideas to feed your culinary imagination.
Big data is being generated by everything around us all the time. Every digital process and social media exchange produce it. Systems, sensors, and mobile devices transmit it. Big data is arriving from multiple sources with ever-increasing velocity, volume, and variety. It's becoming the world's newest resource for competitive advantage, allowing decision-making to move from the elite few to the empowered many. The escalating demand for insights requires a fundamentally new approach to architecture, tools, and practices. To extract meaningful value from big data, you need optimal processing power, analytics capabilities, and skills. Find out how IBM Big Data and Analytics can transform your business. Visit www.ibm.com/bigdata today. That's www.ibm.com/bigdata.
Is your internet connection slow? Do you experience outages or dread calling customer support? How about your latency? Etheric Networks can help you. Etheric Networks is the Bay Area's locally owned alternative to DSL satellite and cable. Etheric provides fast, reliable, symmetric internet via our wholly owned network of towers covering the Bay Area from Salinas to Santa Cruz to Sausalito. We install a 2-foot dish on your building and point it to one of our towers to connect you directly to the major data centers of Silicon Valley. Etheric directly connects to Tier 1 companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon to ensure high-quality service from your building to the world. KSCO Residential Special. Residential service up to 10 megabits per second, symmetric, that's up and down, for $85 a month and $199 installation, with guaranteed minimum speeds and uptime, unlike our competitors. Etheric Networks. Call 650-399-4200. That's 650-399-4200. Etheric.net. That's ETHERIC.net.
Hi, it's Charlie from the Garden Company, your locally owned garden center. Did you know that fall is really the best time for planting? The soil is warm, the days are cooler, and El Niño rains are on the way. Perfect conditions for fast root growth on new, drought-tolerant perennials, shrubs, trees, vines, and ground covers. We have so many beautiful choices native to dry climates around the world, and a great selection of succulents. Enjoy the early darkness in your garden with colorful, glowing, hand-blown art glass garden stakes with solar-powered LED lights. And let us show you the best organic seeds and seedlings for an extended harvest from your fall and winter vegetable garden. Visit the Garden Company Nursery and Gift Shop and see why Good Times readers voted us Best Garden Supply. We're at 2218 Mission Street, across from Safeway on the west side of Santa Cruz. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/thegardenco. The Garden Company Nursery and Gift Shop, proud member of Think Local First.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is the man who set the standard for in-depth, nonpartisan news coverage, Mr. Jim Lehrer. So switching gears for just a moment here, my father used to call the media the fourth branch of government because he said that it will always provide necessary oversight, and you certainly experienced that when you covered the live Watergate hearings. But there's been a lot of changes since those Watergate days, from the viral spread of news over Twitter to 24-hour all-news channels. Can you speak to some of the good and bad changes you've observed in the media?
Sure. The good is that years ago, during your father's time and my time, we had 3 or 4 ways to get the news. I mean, everybody would read their local newspaper, watch one nightly news program, and maybe read Time or Newsweek, and that was it. Mm-hmm. Now there are and if you were to go in the evening to any kind of affair in your neighborhood or in your hometown or wherever, everybody and they started talking about the news, there would be a shared knowledge, shared set of facts that everybody would have agreed on. And then they might start an argument about it, but at least the basic shared information would be there. That is no longer the case. And now there are hundreds, if not thousands, maybe millions of sources of information of various kinds. And some of it is opinion information, some of it is historical information, some of it is gibberish, some of it is fabulous, some of it is very perceptive, some of it is stupid, but it's all there. And that is a good thing in that information is no longer controlled by a handful of, no matter how wonderful they may have been, because I was one of them, but no matter how wonderful they were, the news was basically controlled by a handful of people. A large handful, but a handful. And now it's all out there. The downside of that is just that it's all out there. And people are getting bad information, and sometimes the first thing they hear is an opinion rather than a fact, and they don't go back and then say, wait a minute, you're saying Barack Obama was born in Timbuktu? And where did you hear that? Or whatever it is, whatever you hear. And at any rate, the average person who wants to be informed just has to work a lot harder than he or she used to, but has many more resources to do that. And that's the revolution that we're still in the middle of, and everybody's party to it, both those of us in the information end and those of us in the consumer end, which is everybody. And try to figure out a way to deal with all this tsunami of information that is flowing our way.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think it's a mixed blessing here. According to Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, we're generating as much new information every 48 hours as we did from the dawn of humankind to year 2003. That means every Friday, that entire universe of information is recreated by Monday morning. So the trouble we have is the veracity of the news.
That's exactly right. I couldn't agree anymore.
How do you, for every story you read, there's 5 that contradict it. And so in some ways, when there were only 3 or 4 news outlets, at least they went through a vetting process. There was some filtering process before you got the news. It's the same problem I have with electronic publishing. These days, everybody can be an author.
That's right.
But there's more really crappy books than at any other time in history. Because the editors, to get a book published, as you know, and I know, to get a book published by a major publishing house, you really have to have a book that they're willing to bet their money on.
Absolutely right.
And that process alone was a vetting process.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And when it went through that process and it was published by a name publisher, that had a hey, I got to pay attention to this quality to it. And now that no longer exists. And I agree. But the good thing is, as we are agreeing on this, the good thing is that there are ways that you can go ahead and publish your own book, or you can get there are other ways to do it. You can do ebook. You don't have to sit back and say, oh my God.
But it's also created so much junk.
Oh, I know.
Oh my goodness. And the average person, how much time do they have to really go research?
I agree. This is why it's a revolution and why it's still in progress, because nobody knows what to do about this. And there's got to be a way to access this information in a way that you don't have to spend all day doing it. And that we're not there yet.
No, it's pretty messy. We're right in the middle of it, I think. And with any change, any tectonic change like this, there's going to be a messy period in between, and I think we're just in that messy period.
I couldn't agree with you more.
We are just about out of time, but I have to ask you if you're still writing, and do you have a new book coming up? Because I've read every one of your books. I'm a big fan of your writing.
Rebecca, you should be a member of my family, because I don't think anybody else can make that statement.
I'm available for adoption. I'm a little old and used, but I'm available for adoption. But do you have a new book coming out?
No, I've got a new book that I'm finishing, but it's going slowly and not as well as I would like. But I'm still working on it, and so it'll be a while.
Well, as a fellow writer, I'll tell you never really know where you are in the book until it's done.
That is true. You got it. Amen.
So, well, that is all the time that we've got left. But before we say goodbye, I do want to take a moment to thank you for your public service and for raising the bar for all journalists everywhere.
Well,
thank you, Mr. Lehrer.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you very much for your words and for your time today and everything that you've done.
Well, thank you, and I hope you'll come back soon. If your station is leaving us after this first hour and you have a question or a comment to make about our interview with Jim Lehrer today, you can email me at RebeccaCosta.com or drop me a note on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. How do you feel about the first GOP presidential debate? Am I being too harsh when I say the debates are looking more and more like game shows and not treated with the seriousness that electing the leader of the free world should portray? How did you feel about the questions that were asked? Wouldn't you like to know who the candidates have in mind for a vice presidential running mate, or for Secretary of State, Defense Secretary, Treasury Secretary, and so on? Why aren't these questions asked? Forward your comments to the contact page at RebeccaCosta.com. And if you happen to miss the full interview with Mr. Lehrer, remember that you can download previous episodes of the Costa Report from our website, Apple iTunes, Podbean, and our YouTube channel. And if you haven't been to the website yet, well, do that right now, because it is chocked full of videos and book reviews and blogs and breaking news. And all you have to do to enjoy all of it is go to RebeccaCosta.com. It will cost you nothing, and it is completely calorie-free. And while you're at the website, be sure to check out our bookstore, because when you click on any book on the bookstore webpage, it'll take you right over to Amazon.com. And by going through our book page to get to Amazon, you help support programming like you heard today. It is absolutely true. Amazon pays the Costa Report a small percentage of everything you buy on Amazon if and only if you go to our book page first. And I mean everything. A new printer, a backpack for school, a book, a camera, even a pair of socks. No matter what you order from Amazon, they pay a royalty to the Costa Report when you go through our website to get to Amazon to make your purchases. It won't cost you 1 red cent. I promise. So please, the next time you're going to buy something at Amazon, go to RebeccaCosta.com and click on any book on the bookstore page. It's easy, and it's a free way to support your favorite weekly news program. And I'll tell you what, folks, if you like the interview today, then you're probably a big fan of nonpartisan radio, and that is what the Costa Report is all about. In the tradition of the MacNeil-Lehrer Report, we try to maintain nonpartisan journalism, and I know there's not a lot of it on the air these days. It seems like almost every program that you turn to is somehow polarized to the left or the right to gain market points. Well, we're not going to go there. We're going to continue to hold firm and be a nonpartisan radio program, and we need your support. So I hope that you'll go to RebeccaCosta.com the next time you're thinking of making an Amazon purchase, and let your friends know about it too. My guest next week took over as Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union just 7 days before the 9/11 attacks. Anthony Romero will be here to talk about the growing need to protect liberties guaranteed by the Constitution. Don't miss an honest look at post-9/11 America with Anthony Romero right here on the only news program that puts policy ahead of politics. Now stay tuned for a second hour of Straight Talk Radio. You're listening to the Costa Report.